What's up, guys? Artem MMA Analysis here, and I cannot wait to talk about this Bellator 273 card, Ryan Bader versus Moldavsky. This is their first card back since we just saw Sergio Pettis beat Kyoji Horiguchi, and one of the greatest KOs of the year, who was getting beaten, and then he come back with a spinning back fist. But we're not talking about that anymore. We're talking about Ryan Bader defending his bouts, technically, or unifying his bout, I guess, against the interim champion Valentin Moldavsky, and we'll talk about that fight a little bit later. But let's get started talking about Ben Parish versus Sullivan Cooley. I looked into this fight a little bit. I'm actually quite surprised that we've got Ben Parish as quite a sizable underdog here. He was a huge underdog, like a plus 500 or something against Christian Edwards in his Bellator debut only 3 months ago. He finished that fight in about 38 seconds. And before that, he lost over at a smaller promotion, SFC, by leg injury. And apart from that, he's got some decent wins, I guess you could say. Sullivan Cooley, on the other hand, he's a bit more of a wrestler, which is cool. He's going to be bigger than Ben Parish, but he's 3 inches taller, so he's going to be bigger than Ben. So I guess it could play out into his advantage with his wrestling. But I'm actually going to go with Ben Parish, man. I actually think that this guy is actually better than he seems, man. He's faster. He does kind of look like a bigger guy, to be brutally honest, but he's fast, man. He's surprisingly fast. Sullivan Cooley, on the other hand, only 25 years old. He's 2-0. He's got a win over 1-0 guy, an 0-1 guy over in Bellator. Prior to that, he's fighting over in the amateur scene. But I think it's just a little bit too much too soon. I'm gonna, to be brutally honest, I think that Bellator probably should have just started building him up against guys with losing records, as they usually do. I don't think that this is a very good fight for Sullivan. I do think he's going to risk getting knocked out here. Ben Parish is really fast on the feet. I'm going to go with Parish by knockout. I do think he's going to have that stand-up advantage, and I think he's going to use it quite well here. Moving on to Lucas Brennan versus Ben Lugo. Insanely huge favorite here. I think it's quite understandable. I believe Lucas Brennan has like a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and has insane Jiu-Jitsu. He missed weight in his last fight by half a pound, so hopefully... Actually, no, he didn't. Yes, he did. So hopefully he can make the weight there. But apart from that, man, I don't see him beating Ben Lugo. But this is a fight that... I don't know, man. I would not be putting money on the minus 1500 fighter Lucas Brennan anyway. But I do expect him to submit him quite early on. He does have wins over this guys with decent enough records, I guess, over in Bellator. Ben Lugo, on the other hand, coming off a loss to Natan Levy, of all people, who actually recently fought in the UFC. He lost to Rafa Garcia. But apart from that, there's a couple of wins there. Turned his career around a little bit as well. 5-4 record, which is quite deceiving considering he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. So it's quite cool, man. Good for him. He's 1-3 before this. But moving on from that, dude, I do think Lucas Brennan's going to get the job done by submission, probably in the first or second round. I think it's going to be done quite quickly there. Nikita Mikhailov versus Blaine Shout. Blaine Shout actually does have quite a bit of experience. I believe he's been in a couple of title fights over in the smaller promotions, such as, I think it was Cage Fury. I think he had that title fight in. But I'm not too sure on that. But the point is, Blaine Shout is a very experienced fighter. He's fought with some pretty good guys, such as... Sean Santella, and he's also got a win over Johnny Lopez over in CES. He's coming off a loss in Bellator to a very experienced fighter in Eric Perez. Nikita Mikhailov, on the other hand, very young guy, massive favorite from Russia. Yeah, he's going to be bigger in there. I think it's worth noting that Blaine Shutt, I think, has fought in flyweight in the past as well. Nikita Mikhailov, 8-1, great record, coming off a win over Brian Moore by decision. Beat a undefeated fighter, Muhammad Imanov, 13-0, about 3 years ago by decision. And apart from that, yeah, a couple of good wins, and he lost when he was like 18 years old, so that's fine. I mean, that kind of happens, I guess. A little bit of a reach advantage, a little bit of a height advantage. He's going to be bigger in there. I've got to go Mikhailov. I think he's going to get the win by decision there as well. Moving on to Saad Awad versus Chris Gonzalez. Saad Awad, he got a win in his last fight after coming off a no contest to Mandel Nalo, and before that he was losing quite a few fights in a row to Brandon Gertz, Guti Yamauchi, and Paul Daly, and yeah, he's coming off a win over 16-3 Nate Andrews 7 months ago, so that's a pretty good look for him. Chris Gonzalez, on the other hand, coming off a loss. On the other hand, the first loss of his career. It's going to be very interesting to see how he bounces back. He does fight out of Team Alpha Male, which is a very recognizable gym. But yeah, he's coming off a loss to Iguchi Yamauchi himself. But he does have a couple of decent wins over Vladimir Tokov, who's undefeated at the time. 24-12 Roger Huerta. 7-1 Aaron McKenzie. Luis Vargas as well, who has a losing record. But yeah, man, he's been in there with some pretty good guys. He's beaten quite a few good guys. This is a very good step up in competition for him, fighting a veteran and an older guy in Saad Awad. I think Chris Gonzalez is just going to get out there. He's going to use wrestling and win a decision in this one here. I think it's a pretty common pick as well, actually. So Darion Caldwell versus Enrique Barzola is the next one. Coming out of the bantamweight division for this one here, Darion Caldwell coming off a split decision loss to Leandro Higo. He lost to AJ McKee, which kind of happens because AJ McKee, man, he's a bit of a superstar at the moment. He's still undefeated as well. I think he's actually fighting for the belt. No, he's not. I mean, maybe he is. But anyway, it doesn't matter. He's got a couple of good wins underneath his belt. Enrique Barzola, on the other hand, also does. He draw with Rani Yaya over in the UFC, which I guess doesn't look too bad now, considering Rani Yaya, I think, is actually coming off like a win streak in the UFC. Lost to Movsar Evloev. I mean, that kind of happens. He's undefeated. Was undefeated at the time. And beat Bobby Moffett. Lost to Kevin Aguilar. Beat Brandon Davis. So, yeah, man, he's got experience in the UFC. He's got that high level of experience. Darion Caldwell, on the other hand, 34 years old. He's a bit older. I'm going to have to just go with the underdog here in Darion Caldwell. I do actually think he's going to have more tools in the shed to get the job done here. Enrique Barzola just got cut from the UFC. He hasn't fought for about 2 years now. We'll see if he's got any ring rust here, which is a bit of a... maybe he was injured or something that I didn't really know about. But he just wasted a little bit of his prime there by not fighting. Darion Caldwell, on the other hand, he's been active. He fought 7 months ago. Before that, he fought recently as well. He's been active. And he's fought quite a few times in the last year or so. I am going with Caldwell, and so is the majority. And I'm going to agree. I think we're going to see a decision on this one. I do think the fight will go the distance. Sabah Hamasi versus Jaleel Willis. The experience definitely goes with Sabah, but the youth goes on the side of Jaleel Willis, coming off a loss to Muhammad Bakamov by submission only 2 months ago. Quick turnaround for him. And before that, he beat Makon Madoka and a couple of other guys in the UFC. Vinicius Deusis, which is actually not too bad of a win there. Sabah Hamasi on a little bit of a losing streak. I do expect it to continue. I think Jaleel Willis is going to get the job done. He lost to Andrei Korechov and he lost to Paul Daly. Before that, man, he was actually on a little bit of a win streak. And Sabah Hamasi, you guys might recognize him from his little stint in the UFC from 2016 to about 2018, where he went 0-3. So he lost to Tim Means, Abdul Razak Al Hassan twice. So yeah, man. But he's come back against UFC, come off a couple of wins here, but now he's on a losing streak, and I don't think that's going to end here. I think Jaleel Willis is going to get the job done, and yeah, probably by decision as well. Aiden Lee versus Henry Corrales. Now, this is a fight that's very close, and I'm not actually 100% confident in this fight, but I think I'm going to go with Aiden Lee, man. He's just so much bigger than Henry Corrales. He's 6 foot. Aiden Corrales is 5'8". He's got a 5-inch reach advantage, just Aiden V, and he's a lot longer than Henry Corrales as well, which is going to work in his favor, fighting out of Team Renegade Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's got a submission win over Alexander Ostrorov. He's lost by submission to Aaron Pico. But he's got a KO in Bellator, and he's got a couple of good submission wins there as well. Corrales, on the other hand, a lot more experienced of a guy, coming off a win over Vladislav Perobchenko, which is a very good win, 16-2 at the time. Lost to Johnny Campbell, beat Brandon Gertz, and lost to a couple of other decent guys over in Bellator. But I do think Aiden Lee's going to get the job done. I'm going to pick a submission or a decision here. I'm in the minority here, but I do think that we're going to see an Aiden Lee victory. Only 27 years old, he's definitely got time to build a little bit of a winning streak. He'll make a name for himself out of England. So that'll be quite exciting for him. Islam Mamedov fighting one of the legends of the sport, man, Benson Henderson. Unfortunately for Benson, it kind of sucks to see. We're seeing a little bit of a losing streak here. I don't like it. I don't like the fact that Benson Henderson's on a bit of a losing streak. It kind of does suck, to be honest. He lost to Brent Primus quite relatively recently there. And a fight where the odds were very close. Lost to Damon Jackson. Lost to Mike Chandler as well before he went into UFC. But he's got a couple of good wins over in Bellator. Obviously, Benson Henderson, former Strikeforce champion. I believe he fought in the UFC a few times as well. That was a lie. He definitely did fight in the UFC a few times as well. Islam Mamedov, on the other hand, split decision win over Brent Primus, who actually just defeated Benson Henderson, which will be why this fight has been made. But apart from that, man, fought in the PFL. You guys know I love the PFL, but I wasn't watching the PFL 2 years ago. So I don't really know too much about Islam Mamedov. Unfortunately, he's almost 33 years old, so he's getting a bit older now to kind of make a prospect out of him. So I believe with a win over Benson Henderson, Bellator's probably going to be wanting to put him in the rankings so he can fight for a belt. I do think Islam Mamedov's going to win the fight. I think he's going to get it done by a decision. He's just going to use that wrestling that he's got. Most of his wins recently have come from decision as well. So in the main event, we've got Ryan Bader, the defending champion, who is the moderate underdog, versus the young up-and-comer, the interim champion, Valentin Moldavsky. And I'm going to go with Moldavsky in this one, guys. I do think he's going to get the job done. He beat Tim Johnson by decision for the interim belt. He's got a win over Roy Nelson, win over JV Ayala, and a couple of other wins there. But it's definitely worth noting, man, he has not fought the level of competition that Ryan Bader has fought. But Ryan Bader's getting old, man. He got knocked out by Corey Anderson only 3 months ago, which isn't really the greatest look in the world. He beat Lyoto Machida, though, which is quite cool. Lost to Vadim Ninkov. And drew, no contest with Czech Congo, and a win over Fedor Emelianenko about 3 years ago. So Fedor would have been like 40 years old. But speaking of 40-year-olds, man, Ryan Bader is about 39 years old. He's fighting the young up-and-comer 29-year-old Valentin Moldavsky, who's got a slight reach advantage, but he's also shorter than Bader here. He weighed in 234 pounds in his last fight, so he's probably the more natural heavyweight, I guess you could say, considering Ryan Bader is the former Bellator light heavyweight champion. He fought over in the UFC for quite a while, actually. I think he won the Ultimate Fighter. I cannot remember what season, though. But, yeah, man, I'm going to go with Moldavsky. I do think he's going to get the job done. Most of his other fights have gone by decision, and I think we're just going to see either a decision or a very late stoppage for Valentin in this fight here. Ryan Bader, I mean, he got knocked out by Corey Anderson. I think it was in the first round as well, if my memory serves me correct, which really is not a good look. Yes, it was. It was in the first minute. Damn, that is not good, man. Yeah, poor Ryan Bader. I think he's going to lose his other belt, man. I think after this, he should probably just hang out the gloves. So, yeah, with that being said, I'm going to go with Moldavsky. I'm going to go with them by a late finish or decision. And, yeah, that's my picks for Bellator. This is the first Bellator card I've picked on this channel as well, I believe. If you made it this far, please subscribe and leave a like, and I'll see you in the next one.